Hello, good evening. We're going to give a couple moments for people to log on, but thank you for joining us this evening. Okay, let me just check. Yeah, okay. People are streaming in. Give us just a two seconds and we will get started. Okay. All right. Welcome, and thank you for joining us this rainy evening. I'm Claudia Loomis, president of CB Pet Market, and I'm happy to be your moderator this evening. Spring is in the air, and our April showers will no doubt bring May flowers, but for some of us lucky ones, spring will also bring puppies, as spring has also been known traditionally as puppy season. And proper, consistent puppy training is important from the start. We all know it can be challenging, overwhelming, and exciting all at once. To help us get off on the right paw, CB Pet Market is happy to partner once again with JennaLee Gallicchio, certified dog trainer and one of the very few certified pet separation anxiety trainers. Jenna, as a professional dog trainer and foster to many rescues, comes to this topic with both professional and personal experience. Before I turn the presentation over to Jenna, I just want to give you a brief overview of how tonight's webinar will run. First, there is a poll question on the right of your screen. Please take a moment to answer so that the team at CB Pet Market will know which CB location is your favorite. Jenna's formal presentation will last about 50 minutes, and this will be an interactive presentation where we'll be asking even more poll questions, which will appear on the right-hand side of your screen throughout the webinar. Please answer those questions and we will share the results. At the end of the presentation, Jenna will answer some of your specific questions. You can send those questions directly to me in the chat box. At the end of the presentation, I will begin reading the questions aloud for Jenna to answer. And if we run out of time and do not get to your specific question, I know that Jenna would welcome you to email her after the webinar, and you can email me as well. Jenna, and everybody who's participating this evening will get a recording of this webinar in the next 24 to 48 hours. Jenna, will you please share a little bit about yourself, your experience, and then let's dive in.
Hi there. So I do that a little bit in the webinar. So we'll just kind of get started and dig in. So everybody, welcome. I am super excited to have you here and to be going over this with you and, trying to help you bring overwhelm to, relief. So let's see how we can do. First, I really want you to do your best to eliminate any distractions. If you are here because you got a new puppy, you're probably running ragged trying to keep track of them. So maybe what you might want to do is put them in the crate with a yummy treat so that they can stay out of your hair while you're here figuring out how to take overwhelm to puppy love so that we can get moving in that direction. So if you could do that, that would be great. So who am I? My name is JennaLee. I go by JennaLee Gallicchio. I have been professionally training since 2004, and I was certified through Animal Behavior College. And then I was certified in 2015 as a certified separation anxiety trainer when my dog Emmy came into contact or became a dog who had separation anxiety. So that was lots of fun. But you know what? It put me on a new path. And here I am today. And I get to help people who struggle with that problem. But I also get to help people like you who get new puppies. So there's lots of fun with training. So the inspiration for this webinar, because you know what, honestly, I forgot what it was like to be overwhelmed by a puppy, because one puppy for me, it can be overwhelming, but honestly, I know what I'm getting into. So I think of a plan. However, I was not prepared for the 3 foster puppies that I said that I would take care of. And I was like, I'm a professional. I can do this. Well, let me tell you, in the first 3 hours, I was overwhelmed and I had a plan for when they came. So I needed to kick myself into gear and become what I would do for one of my clients and get a plan into place, because I could not stay the way things were going with 3 of them and 1 of me, and feeling as crazy and overwhelmed as I was. So that's how we got here. But why are you here? You're here because you got a new family member. And I know that so many people say fur baby, but I think of my pups as family members. And so I like family member better. I hope you enjoy it too. So this time it's exciting and yet completely life-changing. And it is. It's exciting and life-changing. In some moments, it's probably all that you imagined. And it's usually when the fur ball is asleep. And in others, you're wondering what you've gotten yourself into. Welcome to being a dog guardian. I promise you, everything you're feeling is normal. Sometimes you're happy and excited. Other times you just want to cry. And then other times you're just like, what the heck am I doing? And why did I think this was a good idea? Trust me, we've all been there. Everything you're feeling is totally normal. So why do you feel overwhelmed? You feel overwhelmed because you're house training, you're crate training, your puppy may be eating you alive. You're trying to get into a semblance of a routine when you feel like you're just running ragged. Maybe you just want to take a shower. Essentially, you're caught up in a tornado that is disguised as an adorable fluff ball. You're really working on all of these things at once. So is it honestly any surprise that you're overwhelmed? No, not at all. Puppies are growing and learning at an accelerated rate in the beginning, so you need to work on everything all at once. It's also the reason you feel like you can't get into a routine. So how can we fix this craziness? Well, that's why you're here, and that's what we're going to talk about. One of the things that I want you to start doing, which is super important, is doing all of the things we need to do, but doing them in a strategic way. So where should you start?
So that brings us to our first poll question. When should puppy training begin? After your new pup is comfortable in their new home? At 6 months, because puppies cannot retain information before then? Or immediately when you pick your pup up from the breeder? When should puppy training begin? Once the pup is comfortable in their new home, at 6 months, or immediately when you pick up your pup from the breeder? Give you guys a few more seconds to answer. Okay. Okay. 93% of our participants this evening begin puppy training immediately when they pick their pup up from the breeder.
Awesome. That's exactly when you should start. Your puppy is learning from the moment that you bring them into the house. So if you get started right away, that is absolutely perfect. So going back to, how we're going to get into a routine, the first thing we're going to do is really start using all the things we have to do and moving your pup into your normal schedule. So one of the tools that I love is the crate, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about first. The crate is one of your greatest tools, but not all pups will like it. So this is where we start being strategic, where the crate comes into place. You want to use it when you need to take a shower, when you need a break, when you can't supervise, when it's time for a nap. For meal times, for yummy treat time, and for training. Actually, if you go online, you can look up something called crate games, and it will give you a bunch of great ideas on how to make the crate a great place for your pup to get into and love. One of the things that I do with every dog that I have, especially when I'm crate training, and any foster who comes into my house, is I feed all of their meals and yummy treats in the crate. And the reason I do this is because food usually trumps everything. So if we use their food to get them to enjoy something, this will actually make the place much better. Most of us want to start incorporating our pup into our life immediately in what we want long term. Like as an adult, we'd have them eat outside of the crate. I suggest you hold off on that for a little bit because we want the crate to be a good place. But in order to do that, we need to make it a good place. If you only put them Oh, I'm not going to say it yet because I talk about that later. So you want to really start feeding all of their meals in the crate and putting yummy treats in there. You also want to leave some surprises in there so they check often. That could be treats, that could be their toys, that could be anything good that they like. You want them to kind of check in there all the time to see what you left for them or what they can find. You don't want to make the mistake of just using it for bedtime. This is kind of what we do. We kind of use it only for bedtime. We use it for timeouts. We use it for those moments when, we can't take anymore and we want to take a shower or we need to do laundry or we just need to get something done. And then what happens is you'll put your crate or your pup in there and they start screaming. And then we feel bad because now we're using the crate and they hate it. So this is why strategically using the crate is going to help you. The other thing is it's also going to help you to get them house trained.
Okay. So that brings us to our next poll question. When can I reasonably expect my pup to stop having accidents in the house? At 3 months, at 6 months, or up to 9 months? And the question is reasonably expect, because there are times when dogs do have, puppies do have accidents. Even adult dogs will have an accident. 3 months, 6 months, up to 9 months. Okay. So it's 40% 6 months, 45% up to 9 months. And some of our participants this evening feel 3 months is a reasonable expectation. Jenna, you want to talk about that as we go on?
So, yeah, absolutely. So we'll definitely address that just a little bit later, but those are great. I love that it's actually spread across the board because those are not unrealistic at all. Going back to the crate, one of the things is, more importantly, using the crate. If you do it right, it's going to help them get on their downtime on your schedule and help them to learn your routine. So I really want you to use the crate strategically, feeding them in there, feeding good stuff in there, and using it anytime that you need to do something. We need to teach them downtime. So use your crate, but use it strategically. So what next? Next is house training. So going back to that poll question, I would say reasonably fully house trained would probably be at 6 months. And the reason for that is their bladders are not fully developed until they're between 4 to 6 months. So although they may be house trained at 3 months where they're able to tell you that they have to go out and they're starting to give you those signals, they may not be able to hold it for extended periods of time. Usually 6 months is a good expectation. 9 months, it's totally possible. Some dogs take longer than others. So that's not completely unrealistic either. And about 9 months, 6 months, they could pretty much hold it a decent amount of time. But 9 months, they can definitely hold it for like a full day, unless you have a small dog. So for the house training, my rule of thumb is after they eat, I'm going to take them out. After they drink, I'm going to take them out. Whenever they wake up from a nap, I'm taking them out. Usually before they play and after they play. So after they eat, in the beginning, it might be 15 minutes before they have to go. It might be 30. It could be immediately. You need to figure out when your dog's schedule is so that we can move them into a longer schedule. But it's always better to err on the side of caution and go out sooner rather than later. Usually before they play and after they play, playing will get the body moving and processing. And so you may have your puppy where you're playing with them and all of a sudden they go away. And the next thing you know, they're peeing. That's because their body can't hold it. And they know last minute when they have to go. So do before and after playing. The other thing that's really going to help you with this is monitoring their water. Now, notice I didn't say limiting their water. I want you to give them as much water as they want, but I want you to monitor it. And what I mean by that is you're going to let your puppy drink. Whenever they stop drinking, however much they drink, after they're done, you're going to pick up the water bowl. You're going to pick it up and you're going to put it you're going to put it away so they can't have access to it. You got about 15 to 30 minutes before they have to go again. After they go, when they come back in, if you want, go ahead and start the entire process all over again. Some of you are probably running into a problem where your puppy seems to be peeing all the time. The reason they're peeing all the time is because they're drinking all the time. If they get one drink of water, then they have to go out 15 minutes. Then somewhere in between there, they've gotten more drinks of water. So they constantly have water in their bladder. If you monitor their water, you can actually help to eliminate some of the accidents because you're controlling the intake and you're understanding when they're probably going to have to go. Now, too, when I get puppies, I like to put them on a feeding schedule. Ultimately, long term, I don't like feeding schedules. And the reason for that is I really don't want my dogs telling me when it's time for dinner. They know, they can't tell time. They're not watching the clock, but they do know when the sun is rising or the sun is setting. So they know exactly what time it is based on that. So later on, I like to put them on a different schedule. But in the beginning, I like to feed them on a strict schedule. That way I know just about when their potty breaks are going to be. So feed them on a schedule. The other thing you're going to want to do is start keeping a record. If you're not already, you want to keep a record of their accidents, their successes, when they eat, when they drink. You don't have to do the water. I mean, if they're drinking a lot of water, that could be a little bit excessive, but definitely make sure you're keeping track of the peeing, the pooping, and the eating. And the reason for that is if you're writing it down, you're going to start to see a pattern. You're going to start to see exactly how long before your dog has to go to the bathroom. It will ultimately help you to get them house trained faster and to minimize your accidents. However, on that note, don't be surprised if your puppies do have accidents up until potentially 4, maybe 5 months. And the reason for that is sometimes it just happens. Even if you go a week with no accidents and you're feeling like, wow, we're finally there, keep going, because sometimes it takes a little bit longer before they fully understand the process. But keeping a record is really going to help you to move through this and make it so much easier for you to figure out their schedule. And also to figure out when they're able to hold it longer, because you'll really start to notice that. The other thing some of my clients do, which I don't want you to do, is wake them up in the middle of the night. Let them wake you up during the night when they have to go out. An easy way to do this would be put their crate in your room while they're a puppy. You'll notice when they get up, they'll start moving around. That will be a signal for you to get up and take them out. If you start waking them up in the middle of the night, what could ultimately happen is you could have a dog who wakes up at 1 o'clock in the morning just because that is now a behavior and a pattern, and they'll just wake up because we're supposed to wake up at that time. You don't want to do that. You definitely want them sleeping through the night for as long as they can hold it. So let them wake you up to go out. The other thing that's really going to help you is cutting off their water a few hours before bed and taking them out one last time before you go to sleep. So a good rule of thumb on that would be if you go to bed at 10 o'clock, maybe let them have their last drink of water at 7, take them out a little while after that, and then take them out again before bed. That way, they'll pretty much go to sleep when you go to sleep with an empty bladder. So what about nipping?
So that brings us to our next poll question. Is it normal for puppies to nip and bite? Well, that was quick, 100%. So right now we're at 100% of our participants this evening feel that, yes, puppy nipping is normal.
Absolutely. It's not fun.
Yep. Well, that, yes, 100%. We believe that it is normal for puppies to nip. Why is that?
Well, it's what puppies do. It's not fun, but it's what they do. Also, nipping is how your puppy learns their bite inhibition. So this is really important for them when they're an older dog. Dogs learn how hard to bite for certain things so that they, control themselves. Normally, if your puppy was with their litter mates, they would be biting each other. If you've ever seen a group of puppies, there may be 2 puppies who are playing together, and all of a sudden, one of them screeches, and you're like, what just happened? Well, in that moment, the other puppy bit that puppy too hard, and that puppy was letting them know, that hurt, that's not okay, don't do that again. They also end play. So that's a really big thing. One of the things that I do when I'm teaching puppies how to control their nipping is I will do a really loud ouch. And you've probably read this online and you're probably thinking I'm doing that. It's not working. I will do a really loud ouch. And then like the puppy in the litter, I will actually just go away. I will leave. I will take away my hands. I will take away my attention and I will just leave. I will then come back and I will also redo the process. Now, it takes them repetition to learn and understand that, but eventually they will start understanding and not biting you. The other thing you can totally do is replace your hand and put something in their mouth because they do need stuff to chew on. Puppies also explore with their mouths. They pick up toys, they pick up rocks, they pick up leaves, and they sometimes grab you, your socks, your pants, your shoes. It's just what they do. So you want to make sure that you're giving them lots of good things to chew on. There's a whole bunch of great stuff out there, a whole bunch of great brands. CB Pet Market has a great supply of things. I shop there just like you. So some Benny Bones are great. Bully Sticks are some of my favorites, and some other toys that they can help you with. One of the things that I want to give you a little tip on with toys is that if they have a bone and then you give them a new bone, take the old bone and put it away. When the new bone becomes an old bone, you can then try rotating the actual old bone into the process again and seeing if your pup is like, oh, this is new, I like it. That way you can at least rotate your stuff so they don't get bored with it, because they tend to get bored with stuff quickly. They're kind of like us like that. The other thing you want to do is teach your pup that biting you hurts. So that's where we're going to do the ouch, we're going to go away, and then we're going to come back and repeat. And when they give us kisses, we're going to praise them and tell them kisses. Yay, good puppy, good girl, good boy, whatever you want to say. But we're going to let them know that's what we want and that's what we like. Now, if your pup is chewing on things, which they are, and they're probably chewing on things you don't want them to chew on, you want to get a chew deterrent. So for a chew deterrent, there's bitter apple, there is bitter cherry. My favorite is honestly the bitter cherry. It smells good. But you don't want to taste it because it definitely has an aftertaste. It smelled too good. I didn't believe that it wouldn't taste good. I was wrong. The other thing that I started recommending for people when the pandemic hit and everybody got a ton of puppies was white vinegar. White vinegar will work as well too. So that's definitely an option. So exercise and mental stimulation.
So that's our next poll question. Should puppies socialize with other puppies and dogs? Yeah, play should wait until after they have all their shots. Puppies should be allowed to play as long as they want with other dogs and puppies. Or puppy socialization needs to be limited to brief intervals so not to tucker them out. Should puppies, forgive the typo, should puppies socialize with other puppies and dogs? Play should wait until after shots. Puppies should be allowed to play as long as they want. Or puppy socialization needs to be limited to brief intervals so as not to tucker them out. Okay. Over half of our participants this evening feel play should wait until after they have all their shots, which is a good suggestion. And puppies should be allowed to play as long as they want with other dogs and puppies. 27% and 11% feels that socialization should be limited to brief intervals so we don't tucker them out.
Wow, that's a wide variety.
Yes.
Well, first, as long as puppies are playing with other puppies who have their vaccines or older dogs who have their vaccines, they can definitely play with them early on. It's better to start exposing your puppy to other stuff before they get into a fear period. But you want to make sure that you know who the dogs are, you know who the owners are, you know that they're okay. Don't go to a dog park with them. That's usually not a good idea until after they have all of their vaccinations. And the other thing is, I would say letting them play, but not until they're completely tuckered out. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's talk about exercise and mental stimulation. Some ideas for you: fetch, tug. I love tug. Hide and seek, you can have them find you. You can also hide a treat and have them find a treat. Puzzle games are great. If you go online, you can look up mental stimulation and puzzle games. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that you'll be able to find that you can do it yourself. You can also do it the easy and lazy way and go buy one. There's a whole bunch of puzzle games that you can do that way. Stuffed Kongs are great. I love stuffing them with pumpkins one, peanut butter's one. There's a whole bunch of great stuff. Freezing it, letting the dogs work to get the stuff out. It's awesome. And then also too with walks. One of the things that I want you to know when going on a walk, when you have a young puppy, they're going to come outside and they're going to be overwhelmed by the world. So just know if you go to take the puppy on a walk, don't expect to go far in the beginning. In fact, you might not get past your front lawn. They might be like, yeah, no, we're not going anywhere. Let them move at their pace. Usually what will start to happen is that as they get more confident, they'll want to walk further and further. Let them decide when to do that. That's not going to be something that you can do really until they're a little bit older. The other thing you can do is go to new places and meet new people. When you bring them to a new place or to new people, they get overexcited and a little bit overstimulated sometimes, but it wears them out mentally. It also exposes them to new things, which is really important for socialization. A tired pup is a good pup, and that is so very true. However, an overtired pup is a nightmare. And you've probably seen the overtired. You know, they're overtired. They're running around like maniacs. They seem to be out of their mind. Nothing you do or say calms them down. And then they just crash. That's when a puppy is overtired. You know, we don't want them to get that way. Going back to the poll question where the answer was, you know, let them play until they're tuckered out. If you let them do that, they will actually take their overtiredness out on another dog. And that could cause a fight. And it's behavior that we really don't want to encourage. So think about that before you really think about, I just want them to pass out and crash because I'm exhausted. The other thing is puppies need lots of naps. So make sure they are getting them. If you got your puppy at 8 weeks, you probably noticed for the first month that they slept almost the entire time. You know, they would get up, they would play a little bit, they'd go to the bathroom, they'd eat, they'd drink. And then the next thing you know, they were passing out again and taking a nap. The first 4 weeks before 12 weeks, that's like the best puppy time because it seems so easy. As soon as you get into the 12 weeks, they seem to come more to life. And that's when we start to see some of the nipping and the crazies and all of that stuff. But when that happens, they still need naps. Your 12-week-old puppy, your 16-week-old puppy is still going to need naps. So make sure you pay attention to when they're getting tired and put them in for a nap. They're just like a toddler. So what about training?
So our next poll question, when should I reward my pup when training? Only when they show mastery of a particular behavior? At every opportunity to set them up for training success, or when you observe them being good? When is the best time? When should you reward your pup while training? When they show mastery at every opportunity, or when you observe them being good or doing something good? Well, that's encouraging that nobody feels that they should only reward when showing mastery of a particular behavior. Very few respondents feel that is the proper time to treat your dog. We're getting some additional answers here, and I'll end the poll in a second, and we'll see where we're at. Okay. Only when they show mastery of a particular behavior. 5% of our respondents felt that, and that is a good time to reward. But at every opportunity to set them up for training success, 68% of our participants believe that is a good training opportunity or good treating opportunity, or when you observe them being good, 26%. So overwhelmingly, it's at every opportunity to set them up for training success. Jenna?
And I love that you said that it is a good treating opportunity. It absolutely is. So yeah, here's one thing. If you remember this, you will be ahead of the game. Like, this is a really, really super important thing to remember. Every interaction with your pup is a training opportunity. We said a little bit earlier, when do you start training? And most of the people, most everyone here said you start training as soon as you bring them home. And the reason you want to do that is because every interaction is teaching them what you want or what you don't want. And those little buggers are so smart that they figure everything out really quickly. So if you remember that every interaction is a training opportunity, you will be ahead of the game and you will be consciously aware of what you're rewarding and how you're rewarding it. So let's talk about if your pup grabs the sock. Normally what we do is we immediately want to go and rip it out of their mouth. What pups normally do is when they grab stuff, they show it to you, or they'll show it off to each other. The 3 fosters I had did this. They would pick something up. They would then let the other puppies see it, and they would show it off. And then they would start running around. So all of the dogs, all of the puppies were chasing them. The one who had it was initiating a game, but they also felt like they were in control because they had the resource. So one of the things that we don't want to do is teach our puppy that running away from us is fun. We also don't want to immediately take it out of their mouth. And the reason for that is because they could honestly rip it apart, they could shred it, or they could swallow it. And if it's something that you need, shredding it is bad. And if it's something that they swallow, that could be bad. So what you want to do is you want to trade for the object, don't chase. Now, 2 is if your pup is curious about your environment, I want you to let them explore. You want to keep an eye on them and trade for things that you don't want them to have.
So that brings us to another question. When should I expose my pup to new things? It's never too early, only when they have begun maturing, about 6 months, after they are fully trained and their behavior is predictable. When should you expose your pup to new things? It's never too early, only when they have begun maturing after 6 months, or after they are fully trained and their behavior is predictable. Okay, 100% of our participants this evening say it's never too early to expose your pup to new things. And you alluded to that early on, so continue.
Yeah, it's never, never, never too early to expose them to stuff. And in fact, the sooner you do it, the better. You just have to remember there's a balance between all of it. And you want to find out if your pup is a little bit nervous, you don't want to push them too far. You want to let them do it in a way that they feel confident and comfortable, while also allowing them to, start displaying behaviors that you want. Again, it's an opportunity to train. So let's talk about them being curious in your environment. So one of the things is you want to keep an eye on them. And part of the reason is because they are paying attention to your reaction. So you want to supervise and help them make good choices by how you react to what they are doing. So if they're getting into trouble, if you actually make a big deal of it, they're going to do it more, because the more you make a big deal of it, the more fun they think it is. So watch them, let them sniff around, be with them. You can let them check out any room in the house at any time that you want. What you want to do is watch them, see what they do. If they're just checking stuff out, let them check it out. If they pick something up, you're going to trade with them. So we want to start thinking about what behaviors we want in the long run. And one of the things that I want you to start doing right now is making a list so you can start to work on them now.
And that brings us to another question. Can puppies grow out of problem behaviors? Will puppies grow out of problem behaviors? Yes or no? It's about 50-50, 60-30, 68, 70-30. I'll give you guys a couple more seconds. Okay. Can puppies grow out of problem behaviors? A little over half of our participants feel yes, they can, and about 40% feel no, they can't. They will not grow out of problem behaviors. Jenna, you want to talk with us about that?
Oh, yeah, this is my favorite topic. Common problem behaviors that start in puppyhood and usually never stop on their own are jumping, barking, pulling, and not coming to you. And the reason problem behaviors don't usually stop on their own is because puppies only do things that are fun to them. So if these behaviors are fun or they're getting a payoff from doing it, they're not going to stop. If you have a puppy and he's maybe 10 pounds, 10 pounds is not a big deal if he's jumping on you. But if he's going to be 40 pounds, you don't want him jumping on you. So you really need to start focusing on the fact right now that you don't want a jumping puppy. So what is something you can do for that? So if your puppy jumps on you, one of the things you can do is wait until they get off. When they get off of you and have 4 paws on the floor, that's when you pet them, or that's when you give them a cookie. You want to start encouraging the 4 paws on the floor as what gets them the attention rather than jumping on you. You want to start that now. Jumping, barking, pulling, not coming, these are honestly the most common problems that I get from clients. And even sometimes I will get them from puppy clients that I've worked with because they don't believe me that they won't grow out of them. So for barking, you know what? There's different types of barking. Some dogs love to talk. Other dogs are not big talkers and only talk when they are playing or playing with other dogs. I have no problem with certain barks. If me and my dogs are playing and they're having a great time, I want them to fully express themselves. And they're both talkers, so they both do that. However, for me, the barking becomes a problem when I have a dog who's yelling at me because I am not getting their meal ready fast enough, or I am not paying attention to them and they're bored. You know, those behaviors, I don't want to give in to them. If I give in to that, they know, they pretty much put on their little checklist, okay, that worked. I just bark, they get up, they do my bidding. So a perfect example for if they're barking at you for when it's meal time, you know, if you're feeding them in their crate, one, what will start to happen is your dog will start to run in their crate and wait for their food in there. But if you're not feeding them in their crate, they will start barking at you while you're getting the food ready. One of the things that I will do is actually, I'll just stop. Like everything just stops. You want your meal ready? You can't yell at me. When they're quiet, I'll then start putting their food in the bowl again, or I'll start going through the process. But I want to make a really conscious effort to let them know that that behavior does not make me move faster. In fact, it stops everything. So with the pulling, we talked a little bit about this with the walks and how when you take your puppy for a walk, they can be hesitant and they cannot want to move anywhere. So we have 3 stages for puppies. One, they actually don't want to go anywhere. The world is overwhelming. It's a little bit scary, and they pretty much just want to stay where they are and watch it go by. The other stage that we have is a puppy who is actually moving and walking nicely for us and, you know, enjoying a stroll. The third stage we have is when they start getting excited about the world and wanting to check stuff out. And so it might be a person that they pull you to. It might be a tree that they pull you to. It might be the grass that they're pulling you to. So what you want to do is if you get to nip it in the bud right as soon as it starts to happen, where they're walking really nice and then they start to pull, I want you to stop, stand there, wait until there's a loose leash, and then let them go to the object that they were pulling you to. You can't go back once you start letting them pull, especially if they start to get bigger. They start to get bigger, they start to get stronger, and they know that you're going to let them go, so they start to get more determined. The other one is not coming. And this is a really simple one, but it's also really complex. The reason most dogs stop coming to us when we call them is because, one, if we're yelling at them all the time, we're using their name a lot, and they're like, I'm not coming to you, you're going to take away my stuff. The other one is that when they do come into us, we usually want another behavior. So we're like, okay, I called them in, the dog came, now they need to sit before they get the cookie. I want you to think about every behavior as an individual behavior. So every time your dog comes into you, I want you to reward them coming into you first and then ask for another behavior. And the reason for that is the come is the most important behavior, and we don't want to minimize it. We want to make sure that it gets lots and lots of rewards. Every single time you call them and they come to you, it gets rewards and praise. The big thing for me is I want you to start thinking about accentuating the positive. So everything that you want, I want you to reward. Now, I know I've been alluding to rewards as cookies. They're not the only reward. They're just the easiest ones. And they're ones that most dogs like all the time. So you don't have to work too hard for it. And it's easy to reward them for that. So reward the behavior you want. Ignore the behaviors you don't want. Ignore is don't look, don't talk, and don't touch. You're going to pretend that you don't have a dog while they're doing whatever you don't want them to do until you can reward a behavior you do want. The other one you're going to do is interrupt and redirect. And you're going to use those when your puppy is doing something that has nothing to do with you and they're totally getting into trouble. Like, for example, they are pulling on your rug. That's when you would use a loud noise. You could use hey, you could clap your hands, you could say no, you could do whatever. But you need to make sure that you redirect. The redirecting is what will get the behavior to stop. It will also get them to come back to you so that you can give them something else to do. So now we're going to talk about the magic of the cookie.
And speaking of the magic of the cookie, are treats the best way to reward my pup? Yes or no? Are treats the best way to reward the pup? We'll give another few seconds because answers are rolling in. Yes or no? Treats are the best way to reward your pup. Yes or no? Okay. All right. 65% of our participants this evening believe that treat is the best way to reward your pup. We know treats can be a strong motivator. And 35% feel that they're not the best way to reward your pup. So let's talk a little bit, Jenna, if you would, about the cookie.
Mm-hmm. I think using treats is most dogs, everybody wants food. Our dogs are super, super motivated by food. And so I think using food to our advantage is a really great gift. It's not the only way of rewarding our dogs, but it is just a tool in our toolbox. It's also one of the easiest things to do. Your dog has to eat. You need to feed them every day. So don't just put their food in their food bowl. Okay, use it throughout the day to reward what you want more of. Use their food as a treat. If we start thinking about using their food as a cookie, then we kind of feel less bad about the fact that we feel like we are overfeeding them because we're giving them so many treats. So use their food. You can put their food in their crate throughout the day as well. You know, that's a treat for them to go find there. I want you to think of the cookie as the easiest way and the most reliable way, because sometimes we don't feel like praising. We don't feel like petting. We're tired. Use the cookie. It's so easy. It's the lazy trainer way, but use it. The other thing you want to do is pair using the cookie with praise. Petting is iffy. Some dogs don't always want to be pet. If you go to pet your dog as a reward in certain circumstances, you may notice that they leave and they disengage with you. So let your dog dictate whether or not petting is actually rewarding. Also, let them dictate to you when petting is rewarding. So use praise, use play, use petting, use cookies. Use the cookie. You want to reward the sit, the come, four paws on the floor, and any other behavior you want to do. The other thing I do, which is really important and most of us don't do, is I reward pretty much for a year straight. And the reason I'm rewarding, and I'm rewarding every single behavior, is because I am building a relationship with my pup. I am letting them know that I am consistent, that they're consistent, that this is just the way stuff happens. I also want you to think of the cookie as a bank deposit. Every time you reward your dog, you are putting money in the bank. What starts to happen is right now, your little puppy wants to do everything that you want to do. They want to be with you. They want to follow you. They want to play with you. They want all of your attention. There is going to come a point where they start becoming like a little teenager, and they're going to start making choices. If you haven't built your foundation solid, and is you being like the top dog and the most exciting thing in their world, they may choose other stuff. So really think about rewarding every behavior you want for all of those reasons that I said. On top of that, you will become the bearer of all good things, which makes your pup want to be with you and do things for you because good stuff happens. You didn't just get your pup so that you could play with them. Well, yes, you did. But you didn't just get your pup to, be this little robot. You got this pup because you wanted to build a relationship with them. So I want you to think that we are building a relationship based on mutual trust and respect. And that goes both ways. We need to earn their trust by being consistent, and they need to learn to trust us. And also we need to learn to trust that they will respond because we've been working on this for so long. What then happens is we have a relationship that's built on mutual respect. And so I hope that you got a whole bunch out of this training webinar, and that you feel a plan that you can actually get you and your life back to normal, and you can start moving in a direction where you're strategically using everything that you need to do in order to get into a routine and in order to keep moving in the direction you want. I want to say thank you for being here. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for your puppies and your new life situation. I know it's going to be awesome at some point. You just have to get through the torture a little bit. And in the meantime, I have a few online programs that I wanted to offer you. They're all offered at a special price off of the discounted regular price. And they all are online and they're virtual. So that's easy to go check them out. You can also do a little bit of a preview for them, I believe. And I also want to include a little bit more in depth, accentuate the positive, and also how to set up your training sessions so that you can be successful. Trade and drop it because it's super important, along with the nipping and bite inhibition. And you can get all of this at allstarpawsdogtraining.com/puppylove.html and use the password dog training. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. You're going to reach out to me at Jenna at allstarpaws.com. And thank you. I hope that was helpful, and it was my pleasure to be here.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jenna. I know that it was very helpful for me, and I've raised a few puppies, but every puppy is different than the previous puppy, so the experience is a little bit different each time.
So true.
Yep. Amanda wanted to know what you think about using a squirt bottle, like, a water bottle when you squirt for bad behavior.
Yeah. I like to use punishment as a last resort. I really like to encourage my pups to offer more of the behaviors I want. I find that it's just easier that way. However, with the squirt bottle or any form of punishment that requires something outside of yourself, it always needs to be handy. So you need to think about that. You need to make sure that it's always with you. That's one. Two, some dogs like water. So what if you have a dog who likes water and doesn't find it a punishment? They may do stuff just to get squirt. So you have to see how your dog does. You need to see if it's working for the situation. Again, like I said, I really do prefer to try and reinforce behaviors that I do want rather than correcting behaviors that I don't. Because any attention is attention, and your dog may just do things to get attention. It's kind of like the kid who's in your classroom who is always getting into trouble.
Yep. Suzanne would like to know how long you should let your dog cry in the crate before you take them out at night.
Okay. These are two different, that can cross over into a situation. First off, I would ask, where is the puppy sleeping? Are they in another room? Are they crying excessively all the time? Is it only when you put them in the crate? If they're out of the crate, will they immediately fall asleep? I think if you go and use some of the tips that I gave you about making the crate a better place, that could potentially stop. However, if they continue crying in the crate and they really hate the crate, you may be dealing with something that could potentially be separation anxiety. But there's a lot of questions that I'd have to ask. And if it's excessively, I would say excessively is probably more than 30 minutes for me would be excessive.
Okay. Alyssa asks, do you have any recommendations on how best to integrate a new wild puppy with older dogs in the house? We've got a couple questions along, about puppies and older dogs, but Alyssa wants to know if you have recommendations on how best to integrate your new puppy, wild puppy, with older dogs in the house.
Well, I hope the older dogs are tolerant. Slowly, gradually, you could bring them into the room with the other dogs on a leash, start doing training stuff with all of them. Have the puppy sit when he's around them. Give the puppy something to do when the puppy is around them. Give the puppy an opportunity to learn how to interact with them rather than just putting the other older dogs in a situation where they don't want to be in. Some dogs will not tolerate young puppies. So one of the ways you can do that is gradually give the puppy something to do, have a leash on so that if you need to correct the puppy or take the puppy away, you can. You can also let the older dogs correct to a degree, but if the younger puppy is not heeding the corrections, then you need to step in. But I would just do it really slowly. Also, too, the other thing I would do is make sure that puppy gets lots of exercise and is not overtired before interacting with the older dogs.
Okay. Jamie wants to know, she adopted a puppy about 4 weeks ago when he was 12 weeks old. He has been humping my leg since day one. I've never had a puppy do this before. How do I deter him from humping my leg? He's now 16 weeks old. I've tried to consistently use my knee to ward him off and say no. It seems to be a game now. I'm also trying to go away when he does that and come back when he's calm. Sometimes that has resulted in a puppy tantrum. I'm not going to laugh, Jamie. Humping is a behavior. And Jenna, what are your thoughts about that?
We've all been there where we've had the dog who likes us a little bit more than we would like them to. One time I used to years ago, I would just kind of let them tire themselves out. And then one time I was at a party and my friend's dog was not stopping. And I had another friend who just stomped on the floor and she startled him and that worked. So what I have been doing is anytime I have a puppy humping my leg or an older dog going to hump my leg, I actually just stomp that foot on the ground really hard, not to hurt yourself though. Don't hurt yourself. And usually that's enough to startle them to stop because they're like, what just happened? And if they go to do it again, you do exactly the same thing. That has been extremely successful in the humping dog syndrome.
Okay. Jamie also says her puppy is 16 weeks old today. Happy birthday. But he keeps licking my older dog's mouths. They hate it. My one dog now avoids him. Can I deter him from overwhelming my older dogs, or do I let the older dogs train him to leave them alone? My one older dog has tried to put the puppy in his place, but it's not working. Yeah, it takes a while sometimes for puppies to get the message. Go ahead, Jenna. Please answer that.
And sometimes you need to let your older dog really assert themselves and really get a little scary sometimes in order for the message to get across. But it sounds like, honestly, you have your hands full with this little 4-month-old. One of the things that I would do is, you can interrupt it and really take him away and put him away from the other dogs and give him kind of like a timeout and then let him come back and see what happens. But honestly, I would probably try and let the older dogs put him in his place. If that means the older dogs leave, I will let them go. I will also make sure that the puppy can't follow him. Like if this is what you're going to do, your consequence is that everybody's going to leave you because nobody wants to be treated that way. I don't know that there's anything that you could put on the older dog that would make it stop. So you can't really use a deterrent that way. The other thing is sometimes licking can be a submissive behavior. Other times it can be a pushy behavior where the dog is trying to get the other dogs to play with them. So just kind of see what happens, let it play out, and see how your dogs respond to it. But again, if they're really getting annoyed but not leaving, you can always interrupt and take the puppy away and give them a little timeout. You can even put them on leash and keep them by you and be like, well, you can't play with them for a short period of time if you're going to do that. So that would be a perfect example of that, would actually be using the interrupt and redirect. If the older dog is not correcting, you could do a hey, a loud noise. You can then go in, you can get the puppy, you can bring him away, you could put him on the leash, you could give him something else to do. And then when he kind of gets bored with it, go ahead and let him go back and see if that helps. It's a trial and error there.
Okay. And Karen asks, how about digging? She has an 18-month-old, and the 18-month-old is still digging in the yard.
Are you leaving the dog outside by themselves?
Karen didn't. Maybe Karen will chat that in if she's leaving the dog alone outside.
It depends. There's a couple different things with digging. One, it depends on the breed. Some breeds are diggers. Other thing is, if you're leaving them outside, they could be bored. If they're out there by themselves, most dogs don't like to be out by themselves. If they're out by themselves, they find trouble. And that could be digging holes. One of the things that you could also do is the holes that they're digging in, take their poop and put the poop in the holes and bury it and see if that deters them from doing it. That's an idea that somebody mentioned. Somebody even mentioned lava rocks once. But if you're leaving them outside by themselves, it really could be that they're bored and they're looking for something to do and they're finding trouble.
Okay. Yes, Karen just responded, yes, but not long. She is not leaving them out alone long. But yeah. Let's one more question. When is it safe to let them chew on bully sticks and Benebones? You mentioned earlier in the webinar that they were good ways to occupy your puppy's time. But when, about what age is it safe to give a marrow bone or a bully stick or a Benebone?
I'm going to be completely honest. I do it as soon as they come home. I do it because I want them chewing on stuff and I want them occupied, and sometimes you just need a break. You have to pay attention to your dog, though. Some dogs will have a sensitive stomach. Some dogs will try and eat the entire thing. So you have to pay attention to your dog and see how their body is responding. If you look stuff up, I believe if you talk to your vet may have a different approach. So I can tell you what I do. I can tell you in my experience, I have never had a problem with it, but every dog is different. Every situation is different, and you need to be responsible for the choice that you choose to make. However, the Benebone, those toys, right away. For me, those toys can be given to puppies right away. And I was surprised at how much the foster puppies I had enjoyed them. And also my dogs enjoyed the Benebone treats. So those, I think they're like wood or something, right? What are they?
They're made partially from wood. They're made in the U.S., kind of like a Nylabone, but Nylabone is all plastic. But Benebone also has a puppy version of Benebones that are a little bit softer, better for puppy mouths to start with. So, and then Tony is asking, do you have any comments on leaving the TV or radio on when you leave your dog alone for a time? I know I do that all the time. I have 15, 14, and 5-year-old. So
I do it all the time. If you're getting them comfortable to you leaving, you don't want to rely just on the TV or the music. You definitely want to put that on and do gradual absences, like you're going out for short periods of time and you're coming back. But yeah, go for it. I love putting music on. There's a couple different things. One, it makes me feel calmer that they have this music playing in the background. The other thing is it drowns out any outside noise, so they are actually able to relax without getting distracted by anything that's happening outside. So yeah, go ahead, go for it. Do it right away.
Okay. And the techniques that you've gone over with us this evening, would they work if you're adopting a rescue, say a 1 or 2-year-old pup? Well, not a pup, a 1 or 2-year-old dog. Yeah.
Well, 1 or 2 is still considered a puppy. I mean, they're older, they're almost fully adults, but they're still in the puppy phases. Yeah, absolutely. all of this would totally work for a rescue. The only difference is you're dealing with a dog who has had these habits for a longer time. So it will potentially take longer to change them. The benefit is that you're bringing them into a new environment and they haven't learned these behaviors in the new environment yet. So by remembering that every opportunity or every time you engage with your dog is a training opportunity, you are actually teaching them how to behave from the moment you bring them home. So yeah, this could work with any age dog. It's just about being consistent, having patience, and remembering to reward for longer than you think you need to.
Okay. Amanda asks, deterrence, what about hot sauce? Have you ever used or would you ever recommend hot sauce?
I have used hot sauce. I have recommended it. I recommend it for certain things. I don't think most people want to put hot sauce on their shoes or on their furniture. So be careful about where you're putting it. There are also some dogs who like hot sauce. So it may not be a deterrent, but it's totally worth trying. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So that was it for our questions. We'll give a couple more seconds in case we get another question in this evening. I don't know if you guys can hear in the background, but there's a thunderstorm where I am, and there's rain pounding on the roof. So hopefully the background noise isn't too bad for you guys. At what age do puppies lose their puppy teeth?
Puppies usually start to lose their puppy teeth between like 4 and 5 months. And usually by 6 months, they have their adult teeth in. I know those puppy teeth are little daggers. However, I am going to make a suggestion is if you find any of the puppy teeth, you may want to keep one of them. They're so ridiculously adorable. And you go back and you're like, oh my goodness, when were you this tiny? So
yeah.
Yeah, I totally suggest saving one. Even if you think it's corny, at some point in time, you will really like that you have one.
Okay. Another question, just a couple more questions coming in. Can teething affect their behavior? Like, would they get the zoomies or be more wild during that teething phase? You know how sometimes babies get cranky. Is it something that would make them wacky? Jamie would like to know if teething would cause changes in their behavior.
I don't know that teething would. That could be more of the overtired. There's also such a thing as like a witching hour. Sometimes the puppies just get the zoomies. It will last for like 15 minutes where they're totally out of control and totally crazy. That could also be where they're overtired and they might just need a little bit of a nap or, be put somewhere in the crate with something to chew because they just can't calm themselves down. It could potentially, I haven't really noticed it. I've noticed those behaviors as more of just a normal overall life with puppy crazy behaviors.
Okay. So when they're teething, you can actually take one of their soft plush toys or soak that in water and freeze it, and that one might also be helpful, for their inflamed gums. And we've had some success in our store with, recommending certain toys that are great to freeze.
Yeah.
And be cool on their gums.
The other thing you can do too is if you get Ambisol, you could take that technique and put Ambisol on it too. So that way it will actually help to numb their gums a little bit. You could totally do that. I love the frozen toy idea too. Yeah.
Okay. Gail wants to know what your thoughts are about the pinch collar or prong collar to use to stop pulling for dogs.
Okay.
To stop pulling.
So all training equipment is an aversive. And so what that means is it's all punishment. It's basically causing some type of pressure in order to get a behavior to stop, whether it is a flat buckle collar, whether it's a prong collar. Choke collars, I do not like at all. They do choke the dogs. I don't think they're a good idea, just my personal opinion. Harnesses, all of those are aversive. I think, and I know, any piece of equipment that you use will stop a behavior for a short period of time if they don't know how to pull on it yet. However, they will learn how to re-pull on any piece of equipment. So it's not necessarily the equipment that you're using. It's, are you actually teaching them the behavior you want rather than relying on the equipment to stop it? So I hope that makes sense. And I hope that answered your question.
Okay. And, you know, when using a prong collar, if that is your choice, it's important to only use the prong or have them on the prong when they're walking. Never leave it on the dog. And you just have to be really, really careful. We've seen, you know, where the prong collar hasn't been trained properly, and I can understand. What do you feel about retractable leashes, like the leash that goes from 6 feet to 16 feet? What did they? Well, we call them retractable leads.
Yeah. I like them. I think you have to be careful with them. I have used retractable leashes in training, but you can easily, if your dog is not responding to you, they can become a disaster really quickly. You need to be careful of where you're using them. You need to be careful of how far you let your dog out. It's always a great way if you want to practice a recall where you have the dog go out and you call them back in and you reward them for coming. But your dog needs to respond to you, because if they are 20 feet out there and they're going to get in trouble and you can't pull them in and lock the leash and get them back to you fast enough, they can get hurt. Whether it's them running up to a dog that they shouldn't run up to, or them potentially running into the street. So using a retractable leash, you have to make sure that you understand how it works, that you're coordinated enough to use it, and that you know what you're doing. I have no problem against them at all. I've used them in multiple situations. I use them for my one dog rider. I use it on Emmy too. But I think making sure that your dog responds to you when they're on that leash will help you to keep them safe. And really, this is all about safety and their safety.
Understood. Okay. And that is our last question for the evening. So I want to thank you again, Jenna, for spending time with us this evening and partnering with CB Pet Market. We truly appreciate your expertise, both your professional and your personal experiences on all things dog. Again, anybody, if you would like, you can reach out to Jenna after the presentation. In about 24 hours, you'll receive an email thanking you again for participating, but also delivering a recording of this webinar that you can refer back to. Again, Jenna, thank you very much. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We truly appreciate you joining us on this rainy, yucky night to talk about puppy training. Again, we'll be having another webinar in about a week on putting down a nutritional foundation for puppies. So it's kind of a theme in April, puppy training. So thank you again, everybody. We look forward to seeing you in our stores. And Jenna, we look forward to seeing you again soon as well. Thank you all, guys, and have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.